Now, it got to be 1968 April. Martin Luther King is killed. We were in Kentucky and we saw it on the television, and we got in the car the next day and came back. And we walked in the door at our house in Wilmette, and the phone was ringing, and it was people from the Institute saying, we want to get our children out. Can you take some of our children? And one little thing that had happened that weekend, Joyce Townley's mother had finally decided she would come and visit the Institute. And so she was there the famous night of the fires and moving across the street to the hospital. So she was in a little bit of shock. So Don and I had Brian Townley and Joyce's mother. My sister Kay had Robbie Addington and the two Behringer boys. And one of my favorite stories.
We had some kids in our house.
We had Brian and Joyce's mother. That was enough to take care of. We had to get her through this trauma. But Kay had these boys. Now, Jeannie Behringer every night bathed her kids and put them in their clothes for tomorrow morning.
For Wussup.
For Wussup. And so Kay had taken these little kids, and of course these children came without any clothes, filthy dirty. So we stripped them all and stuck them in the bathtub 2 or 3 times before they finally got clean. So now they have on one of her kids' t-shirts, like a night shirt. And so they're getting ready for bed, and one of the Behringer boys says to Kay, well, where are my clothes? I have to get my clothes on for Wussup. And Kay said, well, and I don't know which one of the boys it was, but she said, well, we're not going to have worship tomorrow. And this child looked at her as though he'd been hit in the head. He said, not going to have Wussup? So all the rest of our lives, whenever something doesn't happen the way it's supposed to in our families, we all say, not going to have Wussup?
No Wussup?
No Wussup. So we had several things that happened during the time we had these children. Robbie Addington stuck his arm through the glass door on his way out and cut himself really badly. So off we go to the emergency room with Robbie. He was all right. He was very brave, and it wasn't. It didn't hit an artery or anything, but scared the daylights out of all of us. But anyway, and Georgiana had, can't remember who Georgiana had, but she lived near us. So we had them all, they could all get together and they knew everything was okay. Oh, she had a couple of Wainwrights. Well, after the riots, as we called it, our church put together, clothes. I mean, I never saw so many clothes and food, and I hired a truck and I went with a driver. And we drove down to the west side of Chicago. And we delivered all this food and all of these clothes. And I remember Leela, Jan, saying, what are you doing here? And I said, well, we figured people needed something to put on and food, so we brought it down. So that kind of happened during that time.